as Christians and as scholars. The second story that we want to address here is really a book review of this book written by Nancy Sleeth, Go Green and Save Green. It's also, the subtitle is A Simple Guide to Saving Time, Money, and God's Green Earth. I got this book back in the summer, right about the time I was moving and doing remodeling on my house here, and I never really had time to review the book. But I made a lot of notes and certainly dog-eared some pages here. But I found that this book is written from a unique perspective of one who did not grow up in the Christian tradition. But as an adult, she has been assimilated into it upon conversion to the evangelical faith. It seems that the Sleeth family has a deep-rooted faith and is not afraid to embrace that by celebrating with Sabbaths and in caring for God's creation in everything that they do. I want to say it's a non-traditional way of expressing Christianity, but it's certainly different from many mainline Protestants, or even some of the more fundamental groups of which I'm a part, being a Baptist. But I really respect her commitment and her position that she takes. I think she makes some good points. But first off, the book, it takes for granted that the reader is motivated to care for God's creation. There's no talk of impending doom or global warming or catastrophic climate change. Yet, it does incorporate Scripture in support of caring for God's creation. She includes several quotations from the Old Testament, which of course I love, and those are usually in the form of some devotional assertions that she has in the book. The book is organized around several different structures where we might embrace caring for God's creation. For example, home, work, school, church. The author gives insightful ways that people can lessen their impact on the environment in each of these areas. I think evangelicals can learn a lot from the life lessons that she shares. Some of the goals will seem a bit unrealistic at first. She talks about a $20 electric bill. Yeah, I'm yet to see one of those, but by following the tips in the book and really persevering in trying to follow these things, these ideas, I've been able to cut mine down to a quarter of what it was when I first moved in, which is pretty substantial cut. Some of the helpful tips that she mentions are some recipes for green cleaning products, how to reduce your junk mail, cheap, quick, and green meals, which are things you might make from your garden, or maybe meatless dishes. She also includes resources for changes at church, because I think it's only natural that as Christians we try to move from a personal level to maybe more of a community level. And maybe the next step would be our church, and then pushing outward from that boundary. So I think it's interesting that she mentions those. And of course I have page numbers over on the blog, otecology.com. She also has an energy audit worksheet, which is of course very valuable and helpful for trying to cut back on power at your house. Now, as always, when evangelical Christians engage culture, critiques arise, and here Nancy Sleeth is not any different than the rest of us. She laments the American obsession with sports and the time and energy and resources that people waste on those activities. Now, she is of the opinion that kids should only be involved in one activity at a time so as not to monopolize the family's time and resources. She's an advocate of family time, not TV time. In fact, since TVs use electricity, she would say use it sparingly. But this is what I expect when I read the work of someone who is seriously struggling with how their faith affects their attitude towards God's creation. I think this book is well worth the cost. It's $15 because it will get you thinking more frugally, even if you don't agree with her stance on the environment. And it also includes some biblical support for taking those actions. So check out her website. It's gogreenthebook.com. There's a link to it on my blog. I think you'll like her website. So once again, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for listening to the podcast or watching the video feed here. You can email me your critiques, your sarcastic comments, maybe a recommendation on a book or something at oldtestamentguy@gmail.com. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode, and I hope that you will leave some feedback for me and let me know what your thoughts are about the subject we've talked about today.